So this is just a bit of revision. If you could complete this now, that would be fantastic. We've already gone through the first one, just to jog your memory. All right. Now, would someone, perhaps Riley, could you please explain how to do part B here? How might we do part B? Riley, you there?
Yeah.
Yep. How would you start off with this one? What do you notice about the fraction? Just name any feature that you see on the fraction there.
There's only 2 digits.
Yeah, there's only 2 digits. Where?
On the 25 or the
on the 25. Yep, that's correct. On the denominator. What number should we prefer to have on the bottom? In this case, what do you reckon?
I'm not sure.
Not sure. Well, have a look at question A there. Might give you a clue, yeah?
100.
100, yes. It's better when the denominator is a base of 10, yeah?
Yeah.
A base of 10, so that could be 1, it could be 10, it could be 100, it could be 1,000. Do we want this one to turn into a 10 or 100? I'll ask this to Ahmed. Ahmed, can you please unmute yourself? I think I've exposed somebody. Ahmed.
Yes, Mr.
Yes. The question is, how would you turn this 25 into a 10 or 100?
100.
Yep. Why not 10?
Because actually, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah. So that 25 there, you wouldn't want to count backwards. You wouldn't want to make it a smaller number, because if you make it a smaller number, are you timesing or are you dividing?
Dividing.
Dividing. And do you reckon it would be a good idea to divide 17 by a number?
No.
No, not really. So it won't be as nice. If we make it to 100 though, then at least we can make this 17 bigger. All right, so what are you going to do to the bottom and the top?
You times it by 4.
All right, so we've got this 25. We're going to multiply the bottom by 4 to get to 100. What you do to the bottom?
You do to the top.
Fantastic. Okay, so what's 17 times 4?
49.
Yep. And what's 25? Wait, is it 49? What's 4 times 7? 4 times 7 is 28.
68.
Yeah. So 4 times 7 is 28. So you write the 8, carry the 2. You go 4 times 1. That's 4. And then you add that 2. 4 plus 2 is 6. Okay. So now it should be 68 over 100. All right. Now we know when it's over 100, we're confident enough now to just jump the step, yeah? So this 68 over 100 would have its decimal place 2 spaces to the left, which means that we have 0.68 instead, okay? So 1, 2, there it is. Idris, I'm just going to mark you here.
Okay, Mr.
Thank you.
Mr. My book wrecked yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It just fell apart.
Okay. So maybe find another book, or if you don't have another book, find some paper that you can write on.
Notes on Word, Mister. Like, you know how you write, convert this or do it this way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I want you to convert the decimal now to a fraction. I want you to look up your notes and then use our notes from yesterday to answer this question. Next person I'm going to ask is perhaps Dion.
Mister,
Yes, Ezra.
this is like it's a little bit like confusing. No, like it's a little bit confusing for me.
Did you look at yesterday's notes and video?
Video? Which video?
Mister, I need help with this one. I'm still a bit confused.
Okay. First of all, I'll show everyone where the video is. After every lesson, I send out a video and I send out and I put
Mister,
it
you're
onto
lagging.
Compass, yeah? Yep, that's all right. Thanks for letting me know. So I want you to have a look here. This is on our, if you go onto any of our classes, onto the dashboard, you'll see that we have the lesson plan. Now this is today's lesson plan. It's Friday, yeah? Friday, the 23rd of July. That's today. If you want to have a look at our notes from yesterday, you need to go to yesterday's class. So click the button on the left here to go to yesterday's class. What you'll see is this is yesterday's lesson. And what I've done here at the very top, I put a message. There's the homework. There's the Zoom recording. So you can go on there and actually watch the video of the whole class. And you can skip. So if there's some parts that you feel like you're confident with, you can skip that and then go to the parts where you're unsure about. If I've explained it once and you don't understand it, go back and watch it again. And here are our notes so far. So I'm going to be updating these notes here every time.
Okay.
Okay. So make sure you do that. Then we have our lesson plan here. Okay. Resources are at the bottom if you need to download the textbook or the answers at the back of the book. Okay. So that's how we get our notes. Okay. So after this lesson here, I'm going to write this up and I'm going to fill it up. Okay. All right. So let's go back up to when we converted these, when we converted decimals to fractions. So I didn't write, where is it? Okay, I didn't write a set of instructions. Where is it? No, not here. Oh, here it is. There it is. We're converting decimals to fractions. So let's go back to these notes here and let's write up some instructions for it. Okay. I feel like that might help you.
Mister, your screen's frozen for me.
Okay. Just wait a bit and it should catch up. Okay, so when we have this, the first step is we want to count how many decimal places we have after the decimal point, okay? So this is what I'm gonna write. Step 1. Write down the number of decimal, or write down the number of place values after the decimal point. This tells you how many zeros you need. So if you have a look at this example here, for the first one here, for B, you can see after that decimal point, we have 1, 2, and 3 decimal place values. So that means we need 3 zeros. Once we have this 3 zeros, that means we're dividing it by 1,000, because you can see the 1 has 3 zeros. That's 1,000 right there. So, and in the numerator, your number at the top just goes down, okay? And you ignore the decimal point. If there's a 0 at the front, you ignore the 0 as well. You stop looking at the 0. Okay, only if it's at the front, because you wouldn't write a number that's like 0,537. That's not 537. In fact, that's not even a proper number. Okay, so you wouldn't write 0,537. You would just write 537. Once you do that, now in this first example here, you notice that it doesn't, there's no way you can simplify this. But for these other examples here, you can see you can simplify them, yeah? The top and the bottom, you can divide by numbers. And the top and the bottom, you can divide by 2, for example, okay? And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to simplify it. So the next step here, step number 2, simplify the fraction, but you can't simplify it every time. So only
simplify if the numbers are 5 or 2.
Yeah. Sometimes you can do it by 3, divided by 3.
Mister, can you read it? Because I'm typing, so I can't be on the Zoom chat while typing.
Yep, that's fine. Do you have any other books, Idris? Do you have any other books?
Let me check. Because I left some books at school because you said we were coming back after Friday.
Always prepare for the worst. That might be a good lesson for you.
Yeah.
So there's the steps there. What I want you to do is write this out in your book. And Idris, if you found another book, then you know what, I'll just send this at the end, okay? So go back to your notes. I want you to go to this page here, find it, and write those notes in. So you're updating your knowledge book, okay?
Okay.
This is an update here.
I'll write down the steps.
Okay. So simplify the fraction only when you can. So let's go down to this question here now. You see 26.8. What's the first thing that we do? Tanner?
Write how many zeros there are.
Write down the number of place value after the decimal point.
Yep. And I'm asking Tanner.
After the decimal point, there is one.
One
Zero.
place value? Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we write 10. So what's 26.8 going to equal to now if we write it as a fraction? What's the top number going to be, Tanner? What's the numerator going to be?
26.
Just 26?
No, and you put the 8.
Yeah, 268. Do you need to put the decimal point?
No.
Nope. Okay, excellent. And what's our number going to be at the bottom in the denominator?
10.
10, because we only need 10. Excellent. Now you have a look at these two numbers here. Can you simplify them? That's our next step. Have a look at the n numbers there.
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
what would you do? Well, what do you see? What do you see at the end there?
8 and a 0.
Yep, and a 0. Okay, so what can you divide it by if it's these two numbers?
Wait, Mr. Do you mean divide the 8?
You want to divide both the top number and the bottom number.
So
Angelina?
268 divided by 10.
Yep. Yeah, can you give us a hand there, Ezra? What would you divide it by?
10?
Does 10 go into 268 perfectly? What do you divide it by if these numbers here are even? That's the word I was looking for. I needed you to realize that these two numbers are even, okay? So Tanner, I'll ask you again, if they're even, what can you divide it by?
2.
That's correct. So we're going to divide the top and the bottom number by 2. And then you have to work these out. You have to figure it out. You can work it out on the side if you want. Okay. So 2 into 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2. How many times does 2 go into 6? 3 times. And what's 8 divided by 2? That's 4. So the top number becomes 134. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. That there is our final form because it's the simplest form. Always look to simplify your fractions when you can. Okay. So I'll give you a quick moment to write that down, and we're going to move on to exercise 3D, operations with fractions, operations with decimals, sorry. So if you can set that up for those who have already done it, write the title. I'll write it here. And I want you to write the title at the top of your page, yeah? Exercise 3D. And that's operations with decimals. So we did operations with fractions last time. Now we're going to do operations with decimals. That means we're going to add. We're going to minus. We're going to times. And we're going to divide as well by all of these. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that there. I'm going to move on if anyone's still copying down. If you're still copying down, then perhaps leave a bit of a space and we'll get back to it you can get back to it after the class and you can write those notes down. Okay. Now, I'll go through these questions and I'll explain them. They're multiple choice. So, oh, whoops. Let me take this here. Cut that. Go over here. So today there will be two documents, one for exercise 3D and another document for exercise 3C. Okay. So I've got a couple of questions here first. I'll do the best that I can to explain each of these. And then we'll begin doing some questions with it. So here it says, which of the following, so that's our participant, which is a verb or process. Is also a process. We're looking at the correct setup for the following additional problem. So which of them is the correct setup? If you have a look at part A here, this one here is going to be incorrect. Okay. Incorrect because the decimals or the decimal points do not line up. They need to line up with each other. If you have a look at D here, this one here is also incorrect. We don't want to write it like that. The reason is because it is not stacked vertically. We should be writing our numbers one on top of the other. So it needs to be stacked on top of each other. But in this case here, it's not stacked vertically or stacked on top. Okay, vertically is the same as on top of each other. When I say it's, I'm referring to the numbers that we're adding, okay? This one here, do the decimal places line up? So this one here is also incorrect because the decimal places do not line up once again. Okay, so that only leaves us with one answer. And thank you for those who typed into the chat to answer. This one here is the correct one. Because this is the correct setup. So whenever you add decimals, you need the decimal places to line up, or the decimal points. Okay. There it is. So every other number, we line up the points first and then we write the numbers. If there's, you see how at the end there, if we don't write these zeros, then we need to fill them out with zeros. So it all kind of like lights up. Yeah.
Your screen is frozen again on my screen. I'm gonna have to wait to copy it down.
Okay, look, I'll send you the notes afterwards. Yeah, Dennis, is that okay? And
Yeah,
if it's lagging right now, then I'll upload the video onto YouTube and I'll put it on Compass. I'll also email everyone as well. At the end of the lesson, I'll email. Once everything's set up, I'll email as well, okay?
Okay.
So you can watch back over this if you didn't understand it. All right. Now, what I've noticed is that the people who sent through the work, fantastic, but you only copied down the notes. You didn't do any extra questions. You need to do extra questions from the textbook. You can't just expect to do these questions and literally copy down my answers and that's it. You need to try and do it yourself. You try some new questions. Okay. So fantastic that you've copied down the notes, but that's just copying. You're not doing anything much. You're not learning as much. You need to practice. Okay. Now, the second one here, that was with plus, yeah? That's with adding fractions. So I'll write the little title here. This is all adding fractions. Oh, sorry, not fractions. Adding decimals. Now the next one here is we're dividing decimals. And we've already done something like this before. If we're dividing by 1,000, then which way do we have to move the decimal point? To the left or to the right?
Right.
To the right?
No, maybe left, I think.
Does everyone agree with moving to the right or moving to the left? Dion, we've got left. Who else says left?
Me, Idris, left.
Angelina says left as well. Idris, you can't change your mind up like that. Pick one, left or right?
Left. I'll go left
Okay.
all the way.
Left.
All right, very good. If you're dividing, so you don't have to write the division like this. Another way you can write it as well is 2.731 divided by 1,000. This is also a division sign. So we know how to do this one. I'd like you to give this one a try and see if you can figure it out, which one it is. Once you figured out which one it is, I want you to write it into the chat. Type it into the chat. Just type it in and press enter. Don't ruin it for everyone else. Correct, Ahmed? Correct, Mohammed? If we divide it by 1,000, the decimal place moves, yeah? So would it still be 2.371, the original number, or is it, has the decimal place moved? No.
No,
Correct, Tanner?
Yeah, the decimal point moves to the right.
To the right?
I
Which
mean,
way
to
is the right?
the
Okay,
left.
to the left. It moves to the left, not to the right. Can you everyone tell the difference between the left and the right?
Yeah.
Angelina, you're close. Okay, so the left here, if you hold up in front of your face, your left hand, you do this and you should be able to see which hand shows up an L shape. Okay. If you can see an L shape, then that's your left hand. Okay. But if you see it the other way, a backwards L, so this is what the left should look like. It should look like that on your hand if you make a gun, a letter L there. So left is this way. So Nan, would you like to correct your answer there? Is it still 2731, or would you change it? And Angelina, would you like to correct yours as well? I think you're missing one. Coda, can you type it in to the chat, and Ezra as well? Dennis, if you can type it in, and Riley as well, please.
Type what in, mister?
Type in the answer to question number 2. Thank you, Angelina, that's correct. Afnan,
Mister,
would you change the answer, Afnan?
mister, the screen's frozen on like the dividing decimals. Where it writes dividing
Okay.
decimals. So I just wrote those down.
Okay, that's
waiting.
fine. I'll ask, but you can hear me talk, yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you talk, but I just can't.
The screen's
see.
like slow. Okay, it's frozen. Can
Yeah,
everyone
no, I
else
still can't
see
you too.
everything up to date? Can
Mister, am I right?
Yes, that's correct, Ezra. Fantastic. Okay, so you can see here, this is my working out at the top here. You can see I've drawn the arrow 3 spaces to the left. You have to go to the left by 3 spaces. Riley, it's not B. Try again. Now, because there's gaps in between here, you have to fill them with zeros. And since there's no number at the front as well, we need to write a 0 there as well. So our final answer here is E. E is our final answer. Yes, Mohammed.
Do you only add the zeros?
If there's gaps. If there's spaces, then you add the zeros.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if there's no spaces, then don't suddenly add them in between numbers, yeah? We only add them if there's a gap that we need to fill in.
Mister, what I'll do, I'll copy the stuff from the video that you're gonna post. I'll copy the stuff that I haven't done.
Yep, don't just copy. Once you finish copying, what are you gonna do?
Watch a video.
You're gonna watch the video at the same time and copy it down.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And then what do you do afterwards?
Submit.
Is that all I want you to do?
I don't know.
I want you to do some homework and practice as well.
Okay.
And this goes with everyone. If you just copy it down, it's not enough, okay? I need you to do some exercise questions. If I go to, I'm gonna make sure you understand this again, because my expectations need to be very clear. I have to spell it out for you guys. When you scroll down to the bottom here, when it says agenda and it says task 1, task 2, read it. Don't forget to look into your textbook to see examples for help, or you can look at our notes. You can look at my notes that we're doing right now. Instruction: complete at least 4 questions from each part. You can see here, 4 questions from here. You pick 4 questions and you try them. In part number 6, you pick 4 questions out of here and you do them. In question number 7, you pick another 4. In question number 8, you pick another 4, any of them, any 4. Now, if you think 4 is a lot, I'll make you do 5. Because I could literally ask you to do all 9 questions in each section. I'll make you do 9 here, 9 here, 12 here. So I'm only wanting you to practice 4 of them. 4 doesn't sound so much now, does it? So just pick out 4, pick out 4. For question number 10, do 4 of them. That's all I'm asking. It's not too much, yeah? But the main thing that I need you to do is practice. Don't just copy the notes. It's not enough. So going back to here, that was question number 2. If we have a look at question number 3 here, this is talking about multiplying fractions, decimals, sorry. Now, have a look at these two numbers here and these two numbers over here. The difference between them is that the 5.6 and the 3.7 in the second bit over on the right, they have decimal points. So what we need to do is we need to realize, okay, this 56 here, the decimal point right now is at the back, right? It's at the end of the 6 there, and the decimal point is at the end of the 7. But if we want 5.6, we need to move it one to the left. And for the 7, for the 37, we also need to move the decimal place 1 to the left as well. So this only works here when you're multiplying, okay? It only works when you're multiplying fractions. It doesn't work when you add or subtract. Only when you multiply. So have a look here. How many times did we go to the left?
2.
Yes. We went a total of 2 times to the left.
So, Mister, would the answer be 0.002731?
Not quite. I want you to have a look at this 2072. Where's the decimal point on the 2072 at the moment?
Behind it.
Behind what?
The 2 at the end. 72.
2 at the end. Yep. So there's our decimal point right now. Since we moved a total of 2 times to the left, we should do the same here. Correct, Ahmed? So I go 1, 2. There's our decimal point. There is our answer. So which one's our answer, everyone? Can you please type it in the chat? Thank you, Riley. Fantastic. Angelina, great. Theon, fantastic. Coda, awesome. Correct. So it would be that. Thank you, Tanner. Excellent. Okay. So these are the questions that we're going to be kind of covering today, okay? And notice we've done one for each so far. Our last one here is with division. Or dividing decimals. Division, dividing, same idea. But we don't say division decimals, we say dividing decimals instead. So the question here is, which of the following divisions would provide the same answer as the division question of 62, I'll write that out here, 62.5314 divided by 0.03. Now, I'm not going to write it like divided like that. I'm going to write it as a fraction like this. We don't really like this 0.03 at the bottom there. It doesn't look very nice, yeah? What kind of number do we want at in the denominator?
A base of 10th.
A base of 10. Well, yeah, if possible, but it's just division. We want this 0.03. Right now it's a decimal, yeah? We want this to be a whole number. So if you want this to be a whole number, how would you make this a whole number? Yes, that's correct, Idris. So what we're going to do for this particular question here, or this question here, we're going to move the decimal place. Instead of going to the left, we're going to move it to the right this time to make it a 3. Now remember the thing about fractions, what you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So what's our answer now? Can you please type it in the chat? Is it A, B, C, or D? Correct, Ange? Correct, Riley?
B.
Coda, fantastic. Tanner, haven't typed yet. Idris, that's correct.
So, Mister, every time there's only like one letter at the denominator, does the zeros always go behind the letter?
The number. So this number 3 here. Yeah, we want.
Do you know how there's only one? Do always the zeros go at the on the right side?
On the left or the right?
The right.
We want the zeros to be on this side, yeah?
Yeah, so do they always go on the right side when there's only one number on the denominator?
Yes, that's right. So see this, how it's a 3? That's 3.0000, but we don't need to write that out, yeah?
All right.
We just know it's a 3. We don't need to write that out. We just need to know that the decimal point is there, and that makes this a whole number. Okay?
All right. Yeah, thanks.
Well, good. So let's go through these 2 examples here. I'll see if I can do the first one. Actually, I'll get you to do the first one. I'll get you to do part A, but right now I'll do part B so you can get an idea of what we need to do, okay? So what I want you to do when you're subtracting or adding, when you're adding or subtracting, it's the same strategy. So when we plus or minus decimals, we have to line up the decimal points. Okay, so when we plus or when we minus, we need to line up the decimal points. That's only for plus and a minus, okay? So that's our note there. Here's question B. We've got 9.7 minus 2.86. So here's the working out. 9.7. So step 1. Set up the, I'm going to say the difference. The word difference is the same as subtraction, yeah? Or minus. So set up the difference. We've got 9.7. Now see this second number here. I see the decimal point. I'm going to put it right underneath where that decimal point is. What's on the left of the decimal point? We've got a 2. What's on the right of the decimal point? We've got an 8 and a 6. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a box here on the left. And I'm going to put another box here on the right. So you can see where those numbers have to go. 2, we've got the 8, and then we've got the 6. Now see the gap up here at the top here? I'm going to fill that in with a 0, so so it looks nice. And then what we're going to do is we're going to subtract them. Okay, that's the first step. We need to set it up. Once you've got it set up, step 2 is subtract. Okay, or in other words, find the difference. So I don't want to muck this up here for you when you do your notes. I'm going to write it again, just so you can see. And that's how we want to set it up. 0 minus 6. Angelina, can we do 0 minus 6?
No, so it's going to be 6, right?
So what do we have to do with a 0?
Oh yeah, you cross out the 7.
Yep.
And then put 6 on top of, like, instead
Yep.
of the 7. And then you put the 1 to the 0.
Yep.
And then
so it becomes 10. So
Yeah.
what's 10 minus 6?
4.
4. Fantastic. What about this 6 minus 8? What do we do there? Yeah.
Me?
Yep.
All right, so you take out the 9. Then you put the 8, and then you put the 1.
Next to the 6. Okay, so it becomes 16.
And then, wait. It will be 8.
Yep, 16 minus 8 equals to 8. Fantastic.
And then you just minus 8 and 2.
8 minus 2, which is?
6.
6. Is our answer 684?
Yeah.
No.
You put a dot.
Where do we put the dot, Angelina?
Where the 6 is in front. Right.
Where? In the front. In
Yeah.
front here.
In between the 6 and the 8.
The right side.
Yeah, the right side. Or, like Riley said, you put it in between the 6 and the 8. Yeah, so you can see the instructions there can be quite dangerous, yeah? Depends on how you say it.
Oh,
So in the end, you got your answer there. Yes, any questions, Mohammed?
I didn't hear you properly, but why did you put a 16 there instead of a 7?
So we went through the steps. That 16 there came from borrowing, yeah? I'll go through this again because subtraction can be difficult for some. We go 0 minus 6 first. Because the 6 on the bottom, if you have 0 fingers and you take away 6 of them, you've got 0 fingers already. How can you take away 6? You can't do that.
The borrow.
Yeah, so that's why we crossed out the 7, and this is why I do my working out in a different color, yeah? You borrow 1 from the 7, so it becomes a 10. But since you borrowed this 1 here, this is not a 7 10 anymore. It's not 7 10s, it's 6 10s now. Does that make sense, Mohammed?
Oh yeah, and then you borrow from the 9.
Yeah, and then you do it, you go ahead, you do this bit, but then you realize that, oh, if I have 6 fingers, but I have to take away 8. Take away 1, take away 2, take away 3, take away 4, take away 5, take away 6. I still need to take away 7 and then 8, but I don't have any fingers left. So I can't do that. I need to borrow 1 from the hundreds column. So I cross out the 8, the 900, or sorry, this 9, and I put an 8 there. So it reduces, and that 8 The 1 from the 9 joins, and that becomes a 16. Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So now that you know how to do addition, or sorry, subtraction, can you please do question A? .07. Try this yourself first. And if you make a mistake, that's good because you're going to learn. There's the question there. Just type the answer into the chat once you're done, please. And once we have about 4 people or 5 people done, I'll go through the answer here. Remember, we want the decimals lining up. Even if you think your answer is wrong, type it in the chat. Okay. Okay.
Mister, I did my answer in the chat. Can you check it?
Yep. Your 32 is correct. But then you got 1, 5 at the end. Uh-oh. A mistake with carrying. All right. I think now I'll go through it. If you're still working on it, that's okay. Put a pause on it now. And I want you to have a look and watch carefully, okay? So step number 1, what's step number 1? We need to set up
The difference.
Is it a difference in this case? Are we subtracting it or are we adding?
Adding.
Yeah, so set up the sum. That's the word for adding. This difference here is the word for the minus, okay? But you don't say set up the adding, or you don't say set up the addition. You say set up the sum. It sounds better. It's better words, okay? So we've got 23.07. The first thing we need to do is put the decimal point underneath. Then we figure out what's on the left of it. We've got a 9, so put a 9. And on the right, we have an 8. So we put an 8 on the right of the decimal place there. Oh, fantastic, Coda. You got it. Awesome. Now see this gap here? On the left-hand side, that's fine, right? We can leave the gaps. But on the right-hand side, because there's decimals, what should we fill this gap in with? Right here.
0.
0. Okay. Remember, if you're adding, where's the addition sign? You need to put it in. Okay, you need to put in a plus on the side here. Step 2. Find the sum. Or in other words, add. Now, this setup here, I'm not going to ruin it. So I'm just going to copy it here. But if you were to do it, just do it on here, yeah? You do it on the one thing. You set it up and you do it on the same spot. So say this is our first bit. We go 7 plus 0 because we're adding. Thanks, Angelina. That's fantastic. 7 plus 0 is 7. 0 plus 8 is 8. You see our decimal point? You can put it in now if you want to, because it still lines up. 3 plus 9, that's 12. We write the 2 and we carry the 1. You can put the 1 at the top here. And then you got 2 plus nothing plus that 1. That equals to 3. So our answer is 32.87. Okay. Steps are nice and clear there. So now that you have the steps, you can do the practice in your books from the exercise. Okay. Please do the practice, because it's like, oh, I get this, I can do it. And then you go on to your break, and then for the rest of the week or for the rest of the weekend, you don't do anything, you don't touch it. And then all of a sudden you go back to class and I ask you the question, and all of a sudden you can't remember how to do it, or you don't know. It's like, oh, but I got it. I was able to do it. And it's like, yeah, you were able to do it last week. What about now? What about 5 days later? Can you do it? Can you still do it? So you have to practice. We know how to do these ones here. Since we're dividing, do we move it to the left or to the right? Do we move our decimal place to the left or to the right?
Left.
To the left, that's correct. What time do you want us to submit it? You can submit it on Saturday if you want to. Okay, so you can do it tonight. If you want to do it tonight and get it out of the way, do it, and then you have your weekend. But if you're a bit lazy, you can submit it tomorrow. Okay, so fantastic, Angelina. You move it to the left, you move left. And by how many spots do we move it to the left, Angelina?
2.
Yep, because we have 2 zeros, that means we go 2 to the left. Okay, that's the awesome thing about dividing by 100 here. So this 9.537, 9.753 divided by 100, this would go 1, 2. We've got our decimal point. I'll write this a bit further here. so I can show you how working out. Now see these gaps here? You've got one gap, so you put a 0. The decimal point moves here now. And we've got to fill in the number at the front. So I don't want to ruin this, so I'll copy that and I'll get rid of this over here. So what's our number now? That would equal to 0.09753. That's your final answer. Okay, so you see how I did it? I want you to do it exactly the same during your practice. This is a model text. I want you to do it exactly like that. I'll make this here red as well, so you know it's part of the question. In part B, maybe we'll get on to doing a few more questions at the start of next week on Tuesday. But I think after we finish this example here, you'll get a really good idea of how to do the rest, okay? So if we're timesing, which way should we move?
Right.
Yeah, that's correct. So instead of moving to the left, you should move to the right instead now. So see this times at the bottom here? We want to move that to the right. So move right. And sorry, excuse me. I'm going to sneeze for a second. Oof. Muted just in time. Coda, how many times should we move to the right? Can you unmute yourself, Coda, and let me know how many times we should move to the right?
On A or B?
In question B, please. So see how we're timesing by 10,000 there?
Once.
Once? Why do you say once?
No clue.
Okay. Why do you think we said two zeros here?
Because there's 2 zeros?
There's 2 zeros. Yeah, that's correct. And so then what does that tell us about how many times we need to move this to the left? Because we're dividing.
So every time there's a 0, you move?
That's correct. So how many zeros do we have in this 10,000 here?
4 times.
Yeah. So how many times should we move in which direction?
4 times to the right.
That's correct. As you see 4 zeros here. So I should write this means we move 4 places to the right.
Mister, the amount of zeros, and so what you want to focus on for division and multiplication is mainly the amount of zeros.
The amount of zeros, that's correct. And also which direction you need to move in. If you're timesing,
symbol, depending on the symbol.
That's correct. So we're going to show a bit of working out here. We're going to write our number down. We've got 27.58. And we're going to move that decimal point now 4 spaces to the right. So you count 1, 2. Oh, sorry, that's too big. I just got to go by the number. 3, 4. So our decimal point is here now. So that means we fill out the rest with zeros. We've got a 0 here, and we've got a 0 here. Do we need to write the zeros here?
No.
No. So if it's to the right of the decimal point, you don't need to write the zeros. But if it's at the front, then you need to write the zeros, okay? And also, before it reaches the decimal point, you need to fill those in with zeros as well. So whenever there's a gap, you need to fill that in with a 0, okay? So 4 to the right, as you can see there. Whereas this one here was only 2 to the left. Okay. So what's our final answer here? Can you type it in the chat? Type the number in the chat. Mohammed, is the decimal point still there or is it at the end now? Correct, Afnan? Fantastic. Angelina, awesome. Dion, awesome. Tana, awesome. Try typing it again. Yeah, much better. All right. So I saw that everyone wrote this. Can someone read this number out? I notice you put the decimal point at the end as well. Do we need to write the decimal point if this is a whole number? If it, yeah, we don't need to write it out, but if you want to put the decimal point in, that's cool. It's like a full stop, yeah? How would you read this number out? Anyone care to try? Because I'm sure you've seen big numbers like this before. When you play games.
275,800.
That's the one. Thanks, Riley. 275,800. Okay. So you can see it's broken up into 3 segments there. 275, but it's in the thousands. And then this here, 800, is just in the units. We group this up, okay? But we just need to focus on the thousands, and then we know that this part here is just like the normal number. All right. I'll leave it there. I'll send everyone the notes and I'll upload the recording, okay? So hope you guys have a good weekend and I'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye, sir.
Actually, oh, yeah, hold on. Wait. Next week on Tuesday, actually, I won't be here. So, well, hold